Hello and welcome back to the another episode of Daily News Quiz Analysis for IAS Prelims 2025. It is 17th December today, and in this video we are going to solve different types of questions which are very much relevant for your preparation. Before we will start discussing these questions, I would like to give the brief introduction about the video so that you will get more connected with it if you are the first time visitor of this channel. You know, Every day we try to upload this video on our YouTube channel and we discuss various types of questions in it. And if we will break these questions like where from we get these questions, then it would come under three subsets. In the first set of questions which we discuss here, we take questions directly from the current affairs. You know what we do? We take up the most important articles from the newspapers, we discuss them, we break them into the simplest language possible and derive the prelims based question from that particular article so that it will give the idea how the questions can be asked from these current affairs topics. So it will give the idea how you should go through your newspaper when you are preparing for your exam. What are the points which can be asked in the exam? Like how, for example, if a UPSC faculty is right now he's going through the current affairs, he is going through the newspapers, how he can frame a question for you in the exam. This is how we prepare you for that particular exam. So this is how we prepare you here. So this is the first set of questions which we discuss here. We discuss questions from the current affairs. After discussing the questions from the current affairs, we shift our approach towards the another part of our discussion where we take questions from the static part directly. You know what we do every day. From last 3 to 4 months we are discussing some static topic here, and we started with Indian polity. Right now we are discussing DPSPs, and we will take a particular article from DPSP here, and we will discuss that and derive a particular question, derive a prelims based question from that particular article, so that it will give you the idea. Even though the article may seem very small to you, even though the article may seem not that important to you, but UPSC can still ask questions from such discrete topics, so that it is our duty to prepare you very well for that too. So this is the another set of questions which we discuss here. After discussing questions with respect to the current affairs, with respect to the static part, we shift our approach towards the last part of our discussion where we discuss some previous year questions. Here we try to find out the ways and methods by which we can solve those questions, and also we try to find out how we can use that information in the upcoming exam. As it is said that UPSC has this habit, they often repeat the questions, or if they won't repeat the questions itself, but they will definitely repeat the options, or they will definitely repeat the statements. So it becomes mandatory for a UPSC aspirant to go through the previous year questions and do the proper analysis of them. And this is the initiative where we do all this. So I would like to, so this is in nutshell about our video what we discuss here. Now, before we will start discussing this properly, one more thing which I would like to request you guys: please do subscribe this channel, share it with your friends so that they may also get benefited from it, and please do write in the comments what do you feel about the video and what else should we bring for you guys. And one more thing which I forget, which is most important for you guys, is please, if you are preparing for your exams, any exam, maybe civil service exam, UPSC exam, or any state civil service exam, this video is going to be very much important for you, and these questions are going to play a huge role in your preparation. So if you are watching these videos, then do one thing, please do this: do note down these questions, keep the question bank of yours. When your exams would be near, you would want to revise at that time everything what is supposed to be read. At that time the time would be very much limited. I'm talking about the month of May, when you have only few days left for your exams, and the anxiety grows. You want to go through everything, but time does not permit. But if at that time you have these questions with you, you would just go through these questions. These questions would connect you with the current affairs, they will connect you with the static part, they will connect you with the previous year questions, and this is all what is needed for a UPSC aspirant to go through for their preparation. So I believe if you have these questions with you before your exams, you go through them, they will definitely boost your confidence before entering the exam hall. And who knows, as our resources, as our sources are same what the UPSC is using for framing the questions, who knows, many questions can coincide, or if not the questions, maybe many statements can coincide, and it will give an upper hand in the exam. So if you are the serious aspirant, then go for it. Do note down these questions, or at least take the screenshot of these questions. So with this, let us start our discussion by looking at the first question here. Here the question says, you know, question here says it is about which of the following best describes the term greenwashing in the context of the economic activities. So here it talks about the term greenwashing. You may ask me a question, sir, what is the need, why we are discussing this question here? What was the need for us to discuss the greenwashing term here with respect in the context of economic activities? So the answer to this question is directly in today's newspaper. If you had read it, it is very good. If you had not read it, then I would tell you one thing. Here we are not only discussing the questions, but we are also discussing the context of the questions. And by discussing the context of the questions, we indirectly discuss the news analysis. And that's why I had named our initiative as Daily News Quiz Analysis. Now coming to the question here, what was the need for this question? Because there was an article in the newspaper which talked about how India's, the hidden cost of, which as the heading was, the hidden cost of greenwashing of the Indian railways, how the government is implementing various initiatives with respect to Indian railways to go for the green economy, to go for to grow for the electricity, to eliminate the fossil fuels. But at the same time, this is a delusion according to the author, because he cites few terms which are very much important for us to understand. For example, if we will start discussing the news article here, if we will start elaborating on that particular article, we have to understand few things. We have to go little bit back few years and understand few estimates given by the government, understand few statements made by the economic affairs committee, and that will give us the proper direction to this particular topic. In 2018, if we will go a little bit back, in 2018, the Committee on Economic Affairs, they made a very particular and peculiar statement. What they said, they announced that the Indian railways will have 100% electrification. What does that mean, 100% electrification? That means that the Indian railways, they will replace the diesel engines with the electric engines, so that they will go for electrification. There would be no fossil fuels used. And with respect to that, in 2022, another groundbreaking statement was made. Breaking decision was made by the government. What they did they made a national railway plan, and in this national railway plan, the government of India, they framed there were few provisions which the government is aiming at. For example, few of the provisions of the national railway plan are, by 2030, government wanted to increase freight transport to increase from 27% to 46% through railways. It was the first provision. The second provision was they will go for 100% electrification. Third provision was develop infrastructure sufficient till 2050. Fifth, freight corridors would be developed, and also the private sector participation would be there, and also to reduce the transit time. These were few provisions which were announced by the national railway plan, which they are aiming to reach by 2030. From these provisions which were given us by the national railway plan, one which is the part of discussion here is go for 100% electrification. Now the question may come to your mind, sir, why the government of India wants to go for the electrification of the railways? Why they are doing that? So the answer to this is they want to replace, they want to reduce, they want to get to the net zero. They want to provide, they want to reach the net zero emissions by 2030 with respect to the railways. Overall, it is by 2070 they want to get to that net zero emission, but with respect to railways, they want to achieve this by 2030. So in respect to that, what they are doing, they want to replace the diesel engines with the electric engines. But this is not the full story. It is what it looks in the paper. It is what the government is saying. But if we will do the proper analysis, what the article here did, you will understand that there is a way hidden cost of greenwashing in the railways than we are believing it has. For example, the government is saying by replacing the engines, we are going to go for the electrical engines, and it won't be that easy how it looks. For example, if we will analyze it now in a different way, if we will analyze how much money they had spent in making the in developing these engines, these diesel engines with respect to the railways, they had spent tremendous amount of money for that, and to replace that they will have to spend tremendous amount of money, and that won't be very much easy for us. And also, if another thing which is very much important here, which you should note, that how much fuel we are importing for our transportation. If we will see, we are using 100% of the fuel, 80% is imported, and that 80% which is imported for the transportation, only if we will analyze that, only 2% is spent, only 2% of the fuel which we are importing is spent in the railways. So if they are going to replace this, they are going for the electrification, and they think that by going for the railway electrification they will achieve that net zero emission, they will reduce the emissions. That won't be that significant, because only 2% of the fuels which we are using are getting involved with the railways. Rest is getting involved with the roadways, electric vehicles, for example. Rest is getting involved with the trucks and all that stuff. So only a least amount of oil, which are fossil fuels, which we are importing from other countries, only 2% of that is getting involved, does get involved with the railways. Rest is for other purposes, for the roadways, for the irrigation, for other purposes. The rest we use for other purposes. And also one important thing which we should note here, that there is a concept of operational ratio with respect to the railways, which you should know. That what is operational ratio? What is this operational ratio with respect to the railways? It is that how much money you are spending to earn 100 rupees. And if we look right now, how much money we are spending right now, from the government surveys, how much money we are spending in railways to earn 100 rupees, it comes more than 90. And if we will go for the replacement of engines, it will cost us so much money, which is not feasible for us. And also, where from, if suppose we are going for the electrification, where from we will get this electricity? Where we will definitely get, we can't afford, right now we can't go for the solarization, we can't go for the solar energy or wind turbines. We will definitely have to depend on the thermal power plants, and those thermal power plants running on what? They are running on the fossil fuels. So indirectly it will definitely contribute to the emissions, even though railways in general won't emit that much. But where from we are getting the resources, those resources will definitely contribute to the emissions. So that is why the author of this article, it says that there are much hidden costs of greenwashing of the Indian railways, how the government is trying to greenwash it, saying that we are going for the total fossil fuel free, we are going for the zero emissions for the railways. But it is not the case, is really different on the ground. So I hope by discussing this you had got the proper idea about the news. And now let's discuss the term with respect to the question and get more idea about it. Here the question says, if we look at the question, it says, which of the following best describes the term greenwashing in the context of the economic activities? First statement, investing heavily in renewable energy sources to compensate for the past environmental damage. No, greenwashing, it is when it comes with respect to the economic activities, it is more a negative term. Second statement, misleading consumers about the environmental benefits of a products or services. This is the proper definition of the greenwashing with respect to the economic activities. It is misleading consumers about the environmental benefits. Rather, in reality, the situation would be totally different. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option B. So I hope you had understood the topic itself, and also the question, which I tried my best to make you this question very much clear. So with this, let's move towards another question and try to solve it. Here the question is about the sin taxes are primarily imposed on goods and services that are deemed harmful to society. Which of the following is not a common objective of imposing sin tax? Here we are talking about sin tax, but you may ask me a question, sir, what was the need for bringing this topic here? There was no such article which mentioned directly about the sin taxes, but why we are discussing it here? To To answer this question, we have to definitely go through the newspaper, and we will see an interesting article in our newspaper today which talked about how government should lay higher GST rate on tobacco and sugared beverages. How government should go for the highest GST. They should lay the highest GST rate on tobacco and sugared beverages. So let's discuss the topic first, then we will solve the answer. Then we will solve this question and get more idea about it. you know First, we know about GST. It was introduced in way back 7 years ago. When GST was introduced, and the decisions regarding GST, they are taken by the GST Council. So it is GST Council which takes decisions with respect to the GST. What should be the GST particular to any subject, particular to any good. And also one thing which you should know, that the highest rate, the peak rate of GST to which they can go is 40%. The 40% is the peak rate of the GST which GST council can lay on any good. They can lay 40% GST on any good. That is the peak rate of the GST which you should know. These are some important points which everybody should know. So why we are discussing here this? Because the government is planning, they are planning that for the beverages, sugared beverages, and for the tobacco, there was a committee which said that the GST should be increased. Right now the peak GST is of 28%. It is the peak GST for the tobacco, and 28% is the peak GST right now, which is in continuation with respect to the tobacco and sugared beverages. So what this panel suggested, that why we should not, they suggested that we should increase this GST from 28% to 37%, 35%, sorry. They are suggesting that this panel there in the GST council, they are suggesting that this GST should be increased from 28% to the 30% for these tobacco and beverage goods. Now why is the reason why they are planning to increase that? The reason is very much clear. This is the simple thinking, that for example, if a cigarette costs 10 rupees, everybody can afford that. If any sugared beverage costs 10 to 20 rupees, everybody can afford that. But once that cigarette will start costing more than 20-25 rupees, the consumption of that cigarette will definitely decrease. Because this is one thinking, this is the one concept of it, because people can't afford that. This is one situation, that is what they are thinking. So they are believing that we will increase the GST. And another thing which is going to happen with that, the government will get more taxes from that. For example, for any cigarette packet, if the GST would be increased, the rates would be MSP would be increased, the government will get more indirect taxes from that. And also it will reduce consumption of that particular item, will reduce, because it will get more, its price, as it is costlier, its cost will increase, and so it won't be affordable for everyone. But here, this is one concept which everybody agrees, yeah, this can happen. But one thing is more interesting here, that once these items, for especially cigarettes, they are much related to the habit. What people would tend to do, they will go for these cigarettes. They would, even if the rates will rise, they will still go for those cigarettes, because they are very much habitual of that. Or if that is not possible for them, what they will do, they will go for some alternative to that. For example, there are cigarettes and BDs. If anybody is habitual of cigarettes, if their rates will increase, they will go for another thing. So here the author is suggesting that if they are going to do that, they should do it to everything which is the sister concept of which are the sister goods to that. They should increase this GST for everything, so that it would be every product which is associated with it, that would be very much costlier, and also it would be less affordable. And even though the people will go for that, it will generate the good tax for the government. So this is what the article actually talked about. And there were some, this is what article talked about, how the panel is thinking how they can generate more revenue from increasing the GST from 28% to 35%. But the author says, even though it can increase the GST, but it is much habitual and people can shift it to other products. And also the author here says that why we should only increase it to 35% when our aim is for the good of the people. For example, we are increasing it from the author here says, why not increase it directly from 28% to 40%, so that it would be much costlier and it would do better good to the people, as because of these products like sugared beverages and the sin products like cigarettes and tobacco, they cause much harm to the people. They are the main reason for the non-communicable diseases which often people die of. So the author here suggests us that, why suggests the government that if you are going to increase the GST, then increase it from 28% directly to the 40%, which is the upper limit, rather than increasing it from 28% to the 35%, as our purpose, as our cause is to reduce its consumption, and our will is to, is the will, as the will of the government is that the people in our country should be healthy. So it would be better for the government, it would be better for the GST council to increase it from 28% to the 40%. And also there are other concerns. For example, they can go for the alternative products. So the author here says that if the cost would be increased, it would be increased in all the products which are which are closely associated with the with these tobacco products and sugared beverages. So I hope by discussing this much you had got the proper idea about what was in the news. Now let's try to solve this question and get more idea about it. Here the question says, the sin taxes are primarily imposed on goods and services that are deemed harmful, 100% correct, to society. Which of the following is not, here we have to understand this catch. It is talking about which of the following is not a common objective of imposing a sin tax. So first statement, to discourage consumption of harmful goods, this is the common objective. So with respect to this question, it is incorrect. Incorrect, but with respect to the sin tax, it is the correct. This sin tax is imposed to discourage a consumption of harmful goods, but here we are talking about which one is not a common objective of imposing sin tax. So this statement is incorrect with respect to the question. Coming to the second statement, it says to generate additional revenue for the government, 100% correct with respect to the sin tax, but with respect to the question it is incorrect. Third statement, to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, it is totally absurd statement with respect to the sin tax, but with respect to the question this is the correct statement because it is absurd with sin tax. So with respect to this question, the correct statement would be option C. So with this, let's move to the another question and try to solve. Here the question is about green hydrogen is produced through electrolysis of water using what? Very simple question. If you have this, if you have the basic knowledge about green hydrogen, basic knowledge about the environment, you will definitely mark it correctly. But what is the reason for this topic, why we are discussing it here? Because the reason to this is very clear in our newspaper. Here was an article which talked about the green hydrogen and its financial challenges. About green hydrogen, it is the production of hydrogen by renewable energy. It is production of hydrogen by renewable energy. How that renewable energy is produced, that depends upon the sources like solar and wind. So it is very much easy to understand. So but one thing important here is that to produce this green hydrogen, what we need a special we need a special instrument to do so, and this is done by the help of the electrolyzer. This electrolyzer, which is very much important for the production of for breaking down of H2O into H2 electrolyzer. It is very much important for the breakdown of the H2O molecule into hydrogen molecule and oxygen molecule. So because of this electrolyzer, this is used and the hydrogen H2O is broken into hydrogen and oxygen molecules. So why we are discussing this? Because it is simple. It is a simple procedure to get this hydrogen. But why it is in discussion? Because there are different ways and methods by which we can produce the hydrogen. We can produce by using different energies. To produce the hydrogen, we need energy by which we can break the water molecule. So we can generate that energy through various sources. We can generate it through fossil fuels, which are very cheap to us. We can generate it through nuclear energy. We can generate it through different types of energies. So depending upon the energy which we are using, the cost of the hydrogen will vary. So if we will now understand this topic here, for example, if hydrogen is created through fossil fuels, it is availability of fossil fuels right now is very cheap. So this the cost of this hydrogen would be something around $1 to $2. But if the same hydrogen is produced through, if it is produced through by the, is it, if it is produced through the use of the renewable energy like solar energy and wind energy, it will cost much more to us, because we had not achieved that greatest in this sector. So the hydrogen produced through solar energy and wind energy will cost $5 something around that. So for a company who wants this green hydrogen, who wants the hydrogen, where from they will get? Whether would company prefer to get it from the fossil fuels, or would they prefer to get the hydrogen from solar? At the end, hydrogen is hydrogen, whether you had got it from the fossil fuels or the solar energy. You would prefer it to be less costlier, you will prefer it to be cheap. So definitely companies will go for the fossil fuels, and this is how it will have this financial burden, how this green hydrogen has financial burden, and the competition with the other forms of hydrogen, which is and the competition with the hydrogen formed by other forms. So with respect to this, what the governments should do, the author says that the government should go for the PLI schemes. They should go for the bilateral agreements with the countries. When there is agreement, then the countries are bound to buy this hydrogen, and in this way they can contribute to this, to this sector, especially the green hydrogen sector. So I hope you had understood the article here, and with this, let's try to solve the question and get the final analysis of it. Without reading the question, the correct answer would be option C, which is renewable energy sources like solar and wind. It is the correct way to generate green hydrogen. It is the correct way to produce the green hydrogen. So with this, let's move to the another question and try to solve. Now let's move to the another question here, which talks about the bottom trawling. It is very important for us to understand it. As first we will read the question, then I will tell you the context of this question. Here the question says, bottom trawling is a fishing method that can have significant negative impact on the marine ecosystem. Which of the following is not a consequence of the bottom trawling? So here it says which of them is not the consequence of the bottom trawling. So you may ask me a question, sir, why we had brought this? Because of the news article in the newspaper. And when I will tell you the news article, you may laugh at me, sir, what was the reason why, where from you got this idea? So the context to this is the Sri Lankan president, his official first visit to any foreign country was to India, and it is very much significant with respect to the foreign relations, with respect to the international relations, that their first visit was to India. And the Indian Prime Minister and Sri Lankan President, they met and they discussed about various issues. With the Sri Lankan Prime President, he acknowledged how India helped Sri Lanka during their dark times, during their financial instability. How India tried their best to best for the stability of the Sri Lanka. And also, India also raised a few concerns with respect to the Sri Lanka, with respect to the Sri Lankan waters, how Chinese ships are docked in the Sri Lankan ports, and to that the Sri Lankan president assured India that they will try their best that their land won't be used against India. And also India talked about how they are, they discussed about how India had these developmental cooperation programs in which they helped countries like Sri Lanka through financially. They give loans to Sri Lanka, aids, grants, and other stuff. And also the Sri Lankan president here, he talked about some issues which the fishermen of India caused to that particular country. And one of the issue which he discussed was of the bottom trawling. So here, what is this bottom trawling? We will try to understand it through this question. Let us see what does the question say. The bottom trawling is fishing method that can have significant negative impact on marine ecosystem. Which of the following is not a consequence of the bottom trawling? First statement, destruction of coral reefs and other benthic habitats. 100% correct. It is the impact of the bottom trawling. But with respect to this question, it is totally incorrect. Second statement, increased biodiversity and fish population, totally incorrect with respect to bottom trawling, as because of the bottom trawling, the biodiversity is reduced and the fish population do also get reduced. It also gets impacted very badly. I will try to show it through this image. I guess I can make it here. For example, this is the water level and this is the bottom bottom of the sea. For example, this is the bottom of the sea. I will mark it as BS, and this is the water level. What fishermen do? They will drag a net in the till the bottom of the sea, and they will what they will do, they will start dragging it from the bottom of the sea, and they will try their best to catch as much fish as possible. So what happens because of that? There are only fishes are not there are other species too. For example, different types of species are there, and because of this trawling, what happens? Everything which gets into the vicinity of this of their instrument, which comes into the vicinity of this net, everything gets caught into it, and it definitely harms the biodiversity and also the fish population in that particular region. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option B. Now let's have a little look at other statements. It says bycatch of non-target species 100% correct because of the bottom trawling, including endangered marine mammals and sea turtles. 100% correct with respect to the bottom trawling, but with respect question incorrect. Fourth statement, sediment disturbance and release of nutrients into the water column. 100% correct with respect to the bottom trawling, but with respect to the question it is incorrect. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option B. Now with this, let's move to the another question and try to do that. Here the question is about the special act which was mentioned in the newspaper today, which talks about the COFE POSA Act. If we will see what this means, it is Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act 1994. It is the Conservation of Foreign Exchange Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act 1974. Let me repeat it again. C stands for conservation, O stands for of, F stands for foreign, E stands for exchange, P stands for prevention, O stands for of, S stands for smuggling, A stands for activities. So it is Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act 1974. The mention of this act was in today's newspaper. So we need to know what it is about. Under this act, it has given special authority. It has given authority to special branches, which are Department of Revenue Intelligence, ED, and Customs Department. What they can do if they will doubt anybody that he is involved in smuggling, then what they can do, they can go for the preventive detention, and that preventive detention can last for 1 year. So they can go for the preventive detention here if they doubt anybody is involved in the smuggling. It is especially it is related to the smuggling from the Gulf countries. Often people are involved, people who are traveling to Gulf countries, what they do, they will carry gold from there and they will do the smuggling of different activities, like they will carry gold from there, and they can be caught under this act, which is Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act 1974. And if any authority, as mentioned, Department of Revenue, I would mention them here. Department of Revenue Intelligence is Department of Revenue Intelligence. ED can also can be involved in this. ED is there, and also Customs Department. If anybody from them, if they doubt anybody, they can go for the preventive detention. So this is why it becomes important. We often don't go such acts. Such acts are not often mentioned in the news articles. We often go for whenever we PMLA, we would hear about those acts, but this is very unique, and UPSC can ask question on such acts. So with respect to this, let us see what is the correct answer. First statement, prevention of corruption, totally incorrect. Conservation of foreign exchange and prevention of smuggling, this is the correct option for this. For the question, the conservation of foreign exchange and prevention of smuggling Activities Act of 1974 primarily deals with which of the following issues? It deals with the prevention of smuggling, conservation of foreign exchange and prevention of smuggling. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option B. With this, let's move to the I guess last question with respect to the uh, affairs. Here it is about the olive ridley sea turtles. As it's mentioned was in the newspaper, they are known for their unique mass nesting phenomena called. The answer to this is aribada. What they do, they come to the sea beach and they come together and lay eggs there, and this is aribada. So this is the nesting phenomena which they follow. But here I want to add more about the olive ridley turtle, which I guess is very much important for us to know about it. So under the Wildlife Protection Act, it comes under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Under IUCN, it comes, it is vulnerable, and under sites, it comes under appendix 1. It comes under appendix 1. So this much information is enough about the olive ridley sea turtles. So the technique, the phenomena, nesting phenomena which they use is aribada. I read it as this. I don't know what is the proper pronunciation to it, but I guess it would be aribada. So with this, we complete today's discussion with respect to the current affairs topics. I hope you had understood it very well. I hope I had made these questions very much easy for you rather than making it complicated. If any mistake was found, we are human, we can make mistakes. Please do write in the comments. We will try to make that clear. So with this, let us shift our approach towards this another part of our discussion, where we will discuss the static topic. Here today's static topic is about the Article 44 of the Indian Constitution directs the state to, first of all, Article 44, it comes under what? It comes under DPSPs, which we should know. DPSPs. It comes under DPSPs. Another thing about about the DPSPs, it is the part 4 of the Indian Constitution. So these are important things about it. About Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, what does it direct the state? To secure a uniform civil code for the citizens throughout the territory of India. This is the correct answer to it. Article 44 talks about the uniform civil code. We have uniform criminal code. We have CRPC, which got replaced by BNS. Now we have uniform civil code. Now the country is trying, different states are trying to go for the uniform civil code. Goa, they have a kind of uniform civil code. Similarly, Uttarakhand, previously they went for the uniform civil code, and different states are moving towards the uniform civil code. With respect to the civil laws, there would be a one civil code for everybody, irrespective of their religion. So it is mentioned in Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, which comes under the directive principles. So here, if a country does not go for it, can we go to the courts? No, we can't go to the courts because the country is not going for it. Why? Because it comes under DPSPs, and about DPSPs, one important thing is that they are not justiciable. So this much, I guess, is very much important for you to understand about it. Now with this, let us shift our approach towards the last part of our discussion, where we will solve the previous year question. Here the question is about the Factories Act of 1881. It says, Factories Act of 1881 was passed with a view to fix the wages of industrial workers and to allow the workers to form trade unions. This is totally incorrect. It was not passed with a view to fix the wages of industrial workers, but it was passed for what purpose? It was passed for the purpose of it banned the appointment of children below age 7. It was passed so that it can, children below age 7 were banned for working in the industries. So because of that, in relation to that particular thing, this was brought in. It was Lord Ripon who introduced the Factories Act of 1881 to improve the service conditions of the factory workers in India. This act banned the appointment of children below age of 7 in factories. It reduced the working hours for children, and also it made compulsory for all dangerous machines in the factories to be properly fenced to ensure security to the workers. So with respect to the wages, there is no particular mention of the wages, but it was definitely associated with the working hours of the children. It was associated with the age limit of the children, below what age, above what age the children can be appointed in the factories. So with respect to this question, the correct this statement is totally incorrect. So if the first statement is incorrect, it means that statement 1 is incorrect, statement C is incorrect. Now we are left with 2 and D. About second option, it is N.M. Lokhande was a pioneer in organizing the labor movement in British India. 100% correct, nothing wrong with this statement. So with respect to this question, the correct statement is option B. He was he belonged to Bombay, a middle class philanthropic efforts from him. He was the pioneer in organizing the labor movement in British India. So with this, we complete today's discussion. I hope you would like it. I hope you would share it with your friends, and I definitely hope you would subscribe the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. God bless you all.